professor doesn't agree with compulsory attendance and mandatory exams. This post about a professor maliciously complying reminded me of a story from my first year at university when I was studying German at a German university. Traditionally, German universities handed out degrees called Diplom for Engineers and Natural Scientists and Magister for Humanities. In the early 2000s, all the universities had to adapt to the bachelor-master system to make degrees internationally comparable. The main difference between the two systems is that in the old magister system, there was no compulsory attendance and no tests. You just participated as you saw fit, and at the end of a semester you would get a slip of paper for each course you took. Once you had collected enough paper slips, you could take an exam, and at the end you would write a thesis. In the new system, there was compulsory attendance and every course needed to be graded because all the grades went in to your final grade. That, of course, meant a lot more work for the professors as they had to grade dissertations or exams for every class they taught. This was a huge inconvenience to them because in Germany, teaching and research are not separated. As a professor, you are expected to do both, and every minute you spend on teaching cannot be used to do research. Write and publish articles and thus secure funding for your research. I happened to be in the first cohort to study under the new system at my university. There was one professor in particular who voiced his disapproval very adamantly. He taught German linguistics. In his first lesson of the semester, he told us about compulsory attendance. He then said, "I'll leave the attendance sheet on my desk right here. I'll also inform you that I will have a 5-minute smoking toilet break in the middle of my lesson, where I will leave the room. As this is a very big classroom, I can of course not remember all of your faces and/or handwritings. So I guess I'll have to trust that none of you would, I don't know, just come in during the break, sign the sheet for you and everyone you know, and leave." His class was genuinely interesting though, so a lot of us went anyway. But it was nice to know he was on our side. In the last lesson before the exam he said, "Do not study for this exam. I mean it. The difficulty level of the exam is lower than low. Don't waste your time." Of course, no one believed him and everyone studied nevertheless. The exam consisted of 3 questions, translated to English for your reading experience. 1. What's your name? 20 points. 2. Which of these is a linguistic term? 40 points. A. Late is choice. B. Federal election. C. Speaker selection. 3. Petra is waiting for her boyfriend at the park after the exam. Determine the different parts of the sentence. 40 points. For context, Question 3 is a subject matter of grade 4 in elementary school. Not surprisingly, nearly everyone got 100% on the exam. Did he reverse psychology everyone in that class, or is this what happens when you allow adults to learn? That, of course, meant a lot more work for the professors as they had to grade dissertations or exams for every class they taught. This was a huge inconvenience to them because in Germany, teaching and research are not separated. As a professor, you are expected to do both, and every minute you spend on teaching cannot be used to do research. Write and publish articles and thus secure funding for your research. Laughs brokenly in US academia. So I guess I'll have to trust that none of you would, I don't know, just come in during the break, sign the sheet for you and everyone you know, and leave. His class was genuinely interesting though, so a lot of us went anyway. Not entirely surprisingly, I would tend to suspect that a professor who would have a policy like this is either very bad or very good. In the US you have 3 types of professors. Teaching professors, 50-50 research professors, and 100% researchers. If you are an undergrad student, you would only interact with the full research professor if you are working in their lab or applying to grad school and interviewing with them. Most professors are 50-50 if they are at an R1 research institution, i.e. Harvard, Duke, UCLA, University of Michigan, etc., or something worse for research if they are at a smaller university without the support network required for processing large federal grants. And some poor PhDs get stuck as teaching professors at R1 universities. Low pay, no research teaching all the time. In any case, TAs, graduate students, help grade papers and exams. Nearly? Honestly, I hate forced attendance classes, especially the large lectures. I never actually learned anything in those classes and would end up teaching myself from the textbook and going to office hours if I needed a point clarified. The biggest issue, though, was for the classes that lecture did help me, and the students who didn't want to be there made it hard to hear or listen to the professor. What's the correct answer to question 3? Petra equals object, waiting equals verb, boyfriend equals subject? Or did the professor want the classification of every word in the sentence? Which of them is a linguistics term? I know a little bit about linguistics in English, and none of those ring a bell. I am confused by nearly everyone. Did someone misspell their own name? I always found mandatory attendance in university stupid. I got an engineering degree and attendance was only mandatory in labs with experiments and my humanities electives. None of my core engineering classes required attendance. The general sentiment was that it was your education, and if you wanted to squander it, or if you thought you could pass without attending the lectures, that was on you. Same with me. I have a 2-year degree in computers, great with math. After turning in my first English paper, I asked my professor if I could just type them out instead, as I have a hard time with hand writing. She just about wept with joy, and she was so happy that I would do that. After that was amazing how many people got laptops in that class, lol. When I was in college, U.S. Pennsylvania, my professors rarely took attendance. They most often read off a list of students when the attendance list was finalized, usually during the second week of the course. But that was to make sure everybody was signed up correctly so they wouldn't have any administrative problems later concerning graduation credits. Some of my classes had so many people that it would waste a lot of time to take daily attendance. But even in small classes, the professors only used the attendance sheet to learn which names to place with which faces. During freshman orientation, they told us this about attendance: students are our adult age, and the college will treat them as adults, meaning that they are responsible for their own performance. You are paying a lot of money for your courses. The courses affect your graduation and eventually your career. And the more you participate in class, the more you will get out of it. Take advantage of your opportunity or not. As long as you are not disrupting others, it is your own future at stake. They allowed the immature, irresponsible students to weed themselves out. It was a huge university, so it had no shortage of applicants. As far as grading, yes, we had lots of graded assignments and quizzes and tests and projects. All of it went into our final grade, and it was a lot of work for both students and professors. Professors were also expected to publish and/or research, but it appeared to me that they could eke out a decent living without doing a lot of that. A relatively small percentage of our professors spent a lot of time publishing or researching, and usually they had graduate assistants who shouldered a lot of the contact hours and grading. I got my BA in English, Language and Linguistics. I don't recognize the correct answer for number 2. I feel sorry for the ones that didn't. Is teaching and researching not combined everywhere? Nearly everyone? The value of a humanities degree. I had to feed ChatGPT the linguistics question in German and translate it back to English to get an answer. The linguistic term among the options mentioned is speaker selection. Women's choice refers to a dance situation where women have the opportunity to choose their dance partners. Federal election or Bundestagswahl refers to the election of members of the German Bundestag. Both terms are more of a social or political nature and not specifically of a linguistic nature. Speaker selection, on the other hand, refers to the selection of speakers, i.e., people who speak or give lectures in public. He's unleashed the power of education, turning rebels into willing learners. Wow, the horror of being a professor and having to teach, correct papers and give tests.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epicaricast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.